Recording is on.
Hey everyone, it is the 27th of January 2023, and this is the UX research crew from the Bitcoin design community. And this is UX research call number 12. This call is going to be led by Art. He's done some amazing work on as you know, we're building out the UX research toolkit, and he's done some research on the UX research toolkit. So this is a really special call. I feel really good to be here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him presenting his work. So I will hand it over to you, Art.
Cool. Thanks, folks. It's good to be here. This is a continuation of us building something in public, and it's a little bit meta in the sense that we're doing research on a research assets or a tool that allows people to do better research, right? So it's kind of fun that way. And what we'll talk about today is what we did, how we did it, and what it means moving forward. Let me share my screen, and then we can all hop in. All right. Let me know, thumbs up if you can see. Yeah, okay. And if I do this, you could see the new page. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Awesome. So the toolkit as a whole has been, we decided to break it up into two sections. The first section, sometimes called discovery, is to give people who are exploring whether to build a product ideas on how they can go about doing that. And that was the first part of the toolkit that we kind of built out as a draft. And this is the part of the toolkit that we got feedback on. What we are talking about here in terms of our findings will inform not only how to improve that section, but iteratively, how to improve the second phase, which is doing more evaluative research on things that exist or are in prototype level of fidelity. So let's hop in. We'll take a step back because I'm wanting our presentation today here not just to be for the design community, but also for people who are interested in seeing the impacts of UX research as a whole, uh, and maybe put this video in as a case study, right, for doing, let's say, surveying down the road. So, what is the UX research toolkit? What do we find through our methods? What is the purpose of UX research? We asked that question in the survey, as you'll see. How we got the data, who we got the data from, overall feedback about this toolkit that we built, the draft, feedback about specific sections, and then we'll collectively discuss with Christoph's curious inputs what's happening next. So, what Bitcoin UX Research Toolkit be? What is? I like to call it the Buxrt, and from now on, that's what we're going to call it, the Buxrt, Buxrt. Um, Here's how it works in products. Very often there's a visionary, somebody that sees an issue in industry, and very typically, at least in this niche of Bitcoin, it's somebody with a great deal of dev experience, somebody who's a programmer, right? Which is incredible. They're able to solve technical problems. And technical problems are important to solve most often at the end of the day to solve a very particular job for humans, right? And that translation of solving a technical problem for the need of a human requires very often um, uh, research or intuition or data to back up whether the technical problem that's being solved is indeed one that the market wants, that is feasible, and that is usable, people can use moving forward. So the UX Research Toolkit, in a sense, is a set of practices to enable founders and people in design and product, et cetera, in the Bitcoin space to build products that are more usable, feasible, desirable, and some would argue have more value and are moral. The way that we know that we predetermine that our toolkit is successful is very importantly here, this section, that users with no knowledge of UX research can pick up the toolkit and implement a method, a tool from beginning to end, which is an important element that we'll come back to, where I think we succeeded in a sense. We also determined that as we're building it out and once it's launched, that the toolkit is successful if we as the core team receive minimal questions about it. That would indicate that either we didn't give them a way to contact us, which would be a bad way of doing it, or that it is self-sufficient, self-explanatory. And lastly is if we know that folks in the community are referencing the toolkits as a contributor to the products that they launch. So let's move ahead, friends, into the summary. Very briefly, uh, given the data that we have, it's fair to say that our toolkit is acceptable as is. Now, from a professional audit point of view, our toolkit is very juvenile. So to know that being juvenile, it is still like meeting, you know, market demand in a sense or market sentiment is really reassuring because that means we have a lot that we can go in, a lot that we can improve in. Does that make sense? We're already doing something right, and we can always make it even better. The alternative is it's not meeting market demand, and we put in a lot of time into it, and it's beautiful, but it's just not landing. Does that make sense? So we're in the right place here together. Broadly speaking, improvements require us to be more mindful about snackability. User experience and snackability, meaning making the toolkits substantially less effortful psychologically, where if I'm somebody that's never used or thought about UX research, that I could pick it up and I can run with it with minimal link outs, minimal efforts, and where everything is provided to me in a way that I require with very little thinking. And lastly, I argue that as we continue to iterate through our toolkit, we should pull in other methods like moderated usability tests, because those provide us the kind of depth that's required to bring this to the next level. In our survey, we asked, what is the purpose of UX research? We asked this at the end after folks have had a chance to interact with the toolkit. And this is how I summarized the findings, and we can actually uh, use this content in the toolkit as well. So broadly speaking, UX research enables us to understand our customers on the level of needs, behaviors, attitudes. It also allows us to evaluate the effectiveness, usefulness, satisfaction of a feature, design, or product. How do we do this? By testing it with users or by gathering market data, market sentiments. What's the point of that? Well, we are able to decrease the following risks. Again, these are product risks: usability, feasibility, viability, value, and morality. And ultimately, that enables us to build, maintain, and market successful products that ultimately require less resources, less iterations, and less frustration. And this, in our space, leads to the acceleration of the adoption of Bitcoin. Okay, so UX research is a contributor to the direction of Bitcoin. So what do we do in terms of the survey itself? We co-designed the survey, and by co-designed, this is how it looked. I presented a draft. The team gave us feedback. We iterated on it. We sent this off to our warm networks, meaning people that we know personally in the space that we know might be able to contribute. We sent it out to the Bitcoin Design Slack. We sent it on our social media accounts. The survey was in market for about a week. We got 15 responses. We were aiming for 21. Um, Given that it's just starting off, like we didn't expect very many responses, but we got 15, which is, I'd say, a win. Pretty close. And we will be sending one incentive. The survey had a $50 in Bitcoin incentive for people who wished to throw their information in. Not everybody did. Some people just wanted to contribute pro bono. Cool. Let's hop into the big sort of picture here. Who do we hear from? Most people that we heard from are in the Bitcoin ecosystem working in support roles. So these are people in design and product and research and customer success, adjacent to this space. The second biggest group that we heard from are people who aren't in Bitcoin, but who have a vested interest in UX research, right? And then it was just users, people that are in the Bitcoin space. They like Bitcoin, they want more Bitcoin stuff. And then we also heard from Bitcoin founder and builder, which is awesome. This is an interesting question to ask. Like, you know, do you feel you'll be using this toolkit to inform projects that you'll be running? So uh, it's typically a bad idea to ask about what somebody will do in the future. You can't ask people to predict their behaviors in the future. However, this gives us a sort of a sentiment in a sense. Like, it gives us a hypothesis that we can test. Is that it brings us closer to an understanding of if our toolkit has usefulness. And what we heard is that there's a fairly high likelihood that people say they'll be using the toolkit in the future, the people that filled this out. What does this mean? It could mean that they've seen it once and that's it, and that's okay, right? Because they have used it and now they have the knowledge and they can move forward. Or it means that they'll click it open on an as needed basis, like, hey, how do I do competitive research? And they'll link out to our toolkit, right? Interestingly, we had a few people with low UX research knowledge. These were the people that I really wanted to hear from in particular because of our goal of ensuring that people without UX research knowledge are able to do UX research. And similarly, they too had a fairly high uh, sentiment around using the toolkit, which is reassuring. I think that means that we succeeded. Now, we did something called a pre-post test. We didn't have enough survey responses to get statistical significance, but we could determine directionality, meaning are we headed in the right direction? And we saw an 8% increase from before people opened the toolkit to after they interacted with the toolkit in their familiarity with the purpose of UX research. In other words, people are 8% more confident in their understanding of UX research using the toolkit. We also asked before and after how confident they feel being able to independently run a UX research study, and that increased by 12.5% following the use of our toolkits, which again, directionally means that we're doing the right thing. Let's hop into our overall feedback. Okay. So again, like I said, the book cert is acceptable. Uh, on a professional evaluation, it's juvenile. It still has place to grow, which is incredible. What are and I broke this up into need to haves and nice to haves. Need to haves are things that we need to address immediately before we even build, let's say, phase two. And nice to haves are things that we can incorporate as we're building into the future. So these are themes that we'll also hear within the sections too. So visuals to accompany text instructions. And what people seem to like is this juxtaposition or placement of sections of a particular tool or task visually and then described verbally, so that somebody who's more visual could just glean the information visually and somebody who's more verbal is able to read that. So that's an invitation that people gave us. Generally, um, it's frowned upon to link out to things. So because that increases friction, right? So somebody's on a certain landing page or a page, they don't want to click out into something else and then lose where they were psychologically on interacting with a certain page, let's say. So my invitation for us, and this connects with the previous point is to better integrate visuals and information that we would link out to in one page, maybe using progressive disclosure, maybe using better headings, but um, to have not to rely, to assume that people won't click on external links, right? To assume that fundamentally, and then if they do, bueno. If they don't, we will have built around that. Everybody wants case studies and examples. And Christoph, this comes way back to what we originally started with, and I totally agree. Case studies and examples are what crystallize everything for people. Um, there's something really interesting about uh, a founder specifically, a founder's mentality, which is I don't have time for these formal methods. I don't have time for these formal tools. Can you explain the philosophy of like scrappy UX research? And by that, it's like, can we just talk to people? Is that a method? Right? Like, can you just make it stupid simple for me if I'm not going to click into these fancy tools? And what I invite us to do as an outcome is to have a section on the landing page to explain that these tools just give us depth, but ultimately the philosophy of UX research is putting things in front of people and getting feedback, and for us to work on that. And and also to include tools like, for example, Miro for Figma, Figma Jam, FigJam, Mural, for surveying, it's like Google Forms, things like that. So just uh, simplifying decisions for folks. Nice to have is people want a video description, um, just in terms of the tool. And I think once we're close to like fully writing out things, we can get there uh, as like a last little end. And um, people did not necessarily like Notion as a place to host things. And I think we should collectively think as, if this is a product, where's the best place for this product to live? And my suspicion is that it should be in the Bitcoin design guide. It should be integrated into it. Let's look into the different sections that we got feedback on. So there was 4 that we built. One is the landing section, and then 3 tools, the landing page rather. We had a fairly low score for how easy it is from the landing page to understand which tool to use. And that's strictly because we didn't offer any explanation of which tool does what. So very easy fix, right? Let's explain what these tools are very briefly so people can decide what to go into. Some people didn't know that these are clickable. That's a UX issue. I think like, meh, most people did. So, whoop. Um, explain like UXR's ongoing conversations and meetings with users. That's about that scrappy philosophy of what it means to gather data. I've addressed it earlier. And then there's legacy information about left and right that was a carryover from our previous version. I think that's a very easy fix. Nice to haves again. Um, Visuals, just people want visuals, people want videos. And I argue that we should link out to other resources that exist about UX research tools, just to have for people who are more advanced. When we hop into the competitive research section, all of them were fairly strong, to be honest, in terms of their scoring. So they're all hovering around like in terms of usefulness and like understandability, ability to carry them out. They're all hovering around like um, mid to like agree level of utility, which is fairly good. There's again a few UX issues for us to fix, and those UX issues are, once this loads, those issues are like putting the FigJam without explaining what FigJam is or how it's useful to the user. This gigantic back button above the fold. So basically, the real estate that's taken up is basically in no way addressing the needs of somebody who's wanting to figure out what competitive research is. So addressing that, Um, Embedding FigJam insights into these steps so that people are able to, without clicking into the FigJam, see where they're at visually, but also verbally. Um, and then also, I argue that we should throw in some instructions on like mining for social sentiment about things, because that, in a sense, is also competitive research. And then same thing, just nice to haves are these explainer videos and resources out to more expert ideas. Jobs to be done performed fairly good, actually. I'm surprised because it, it in my expertise is a bit of a more complex way of thinking about things, but people thought it was fairly easy to understand. That's awesome. Um, uh, for jobs to be done specifically, it's really important to provide an example. Whereas competitive research, you can intuitively understand what a competitive research is. You've heard about it. Everybody, even if you're not in research, you know what that is. But jobs to be done, people really want that like specific example. Um,
I think Art just froze. I think we just wait for him to come back. But wow, it's so good. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's back. Cool.
are we still here? Hello. Yeah. Okay. Cool. My Jitsi restarted. Okay, one sec. I'm reloading the share screen. Okay, cool. Right. Um, yeah, here it's really like fixing these UX issues, but also where are we? Tools, FigJam. I'm trying to look at the jobs to be done section right now. So give me 1 second. Boo, 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 boo. There we go. And the good thing about a great deal of this feedback, folks, is that it's very like low hanging fruits, right? So interview in.
Oh, it seems like Jinxie's kicked him out again. Oh, just wait a bit.
Hi, am I gone? Am I back? Yeah. Okay. Well, we're almost done here. So if it wants to kick me out, then so be it. Last section, journey mapping. This was the easiest and most well scored. It's not cooperating, but honestly, we did address most of the things that we needed to address. The very last.
Hey, can anyone hear Art? Because I can't hear him at the moment. You can't hear him as well? You can maybe Art maybe and I oh, he's gone. Jakob, you're muted as well for some reason. All right, let's just give it a minute and see if Art manages to get Jitsi to work with him. Could also be because of the screen sharing stuff. Nope, he's not back in. Let me hop to the last slide of his and see if I can actually just. That is the last bit in the puzzle. So I will share my screen, or rather, share my entire screen. This one, and I'll just go through that last bit. Here we go. So this is the last, the journey mapping section. Apparently, the feedback was that this was the clearest of all tools, so that is super nice. It requires examples, but otherwise, it was a slam dunk. That's very nicely written. Need to have. We need to include journey maps without needing to click on FigJam. Okay, interesting one. And demonstrate a minimum viable journey map for those seeing them as effortful. Okay. Are you back, Art?
I think so.
Cool. I'll stop presenting then because I was kind of just trying to wrap it up because I wasn't
I
sure if
mean,
it would.
oh no, now everybody could see all the things in my background. Oh no. Let me quickly hide
We
the
all went home.
hot mess. And it's so weird because my I use the different browser. This is just random. I use a UX question, right? I use a different browser. Went from Brave to Chrome, and then Jitsi for some reason was in Russian.
Oh no. The UX research call with the glitch. Oh no. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna just share my screen again and do the final wrap up, and then we'll get Art to jump back on. And basically, he's done a thank you. So that's basically like the last slide. So he's thanked all of us. That's super nice. Jakob here, Jan, Christoph, super nice.
I just realized you didn't hear me probably, right? Now
No,
you hear
I
me.
didn't hear you. No, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I always forget to open my mic because when it's closed, the microphone doesn't work.
And that's it. And he's added in a link to the questions that we included in the survey here. And he's also added in the project plan. So, yeah, super. That is some incredible. I love the way he presented the survey results. Was it also interesting for you as well, Jakob?
Yeah, it was really, really good. I wasn't following, the. I actually haven't seen the toolkit before I clicked the survey, so it was kind of interesting to see. But yeah, it seems like the overall feedback is positive, so that's cool.
Yeah.
It is. It is positive, and people are liking it. And I think we're heading in the right direction. It's just really like spicing things up.
Yeah, I want to give you a round of applause as well. Where's the clapping button here? Oh, my screen just went too wide. Like, where's the clapping button? Is it here in the chat? Yeah, here we go. Really, really good. It deserves a round of applause and a beer and all the other emojis. Really good. Seriously, so well done.
Yeah, I just had a question. You just mentioned spicing things up. And is this like spice as in going to a German kebab place and asking for spicy and it tastes exactly the same? Or is this like an Indian spicy or like, you know, some real spiciness?
I think it's the spice that's in the eye of the beholder. So for me, spicy here means making it more usable for our audience, really, and achieving that goal of somebody who's never done UX research is able to log in, not feel overwhelmed, go from A to B, and figure out which tool they need to use and implement that tool. That is the ultimate sign of success for us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I just talked to a few people. I guess I did UX research, right? Don't even realize it. Just did it.
Yeah.
But I think we should. You're right, Christoph, and I think we should be more mindful about that being the reality of things.
Yeah.
Is that and that's okay. It's totally okay if your UX research is simply meeting with humans, getting their feedback, sending a text to someone being like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Because that's scrappy. That's how founders think. That's how um, a lot of this is done. Can we enable that, but help people frame it as just ongoing discovery, right? Can we do that? And I think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ideally, it's a great entry point, right there. It's like this funnel thing. How do you get people from doing nothing to the first thing? And then how, once they're a little bit further, then how do you get them to do the next thing for the more complex research tasks they're trying to solve and all that?
Something
So,
else that I'm really noticing as well, and maybe this is in version 2 iteration of the kit. One of the UX research online webinar that I went to, the guy did an entire presentation on how to actually present UX research, and I think a large snippet of this recording was a really nice example of how to present UX research, and I think that that's in the future, it would be nice to include something to help people to present their research findings because, also getting on calls from the people from the Bitcoin Design Guide, they were like, oh, we refer to the Bitcoin Design Guide as a product builder, and we try to say, okay, this is my reasoning. I've learned this from the Bitcoin Design Guide. This is why I'd like us to implement this into this screen in the product. So I think it's a bit of that narrowing that gap between presenting, collecting the research findings, having everything, but then presenting in a way that gets people, excited, on board, open to implementing the feedback or, doing something with it. I think that's a big, big challenge. And I'm curious what you, Jakob and Art, think about that as well.
Yeah,
And
one
Christoph as well. Sorry. I mean, I was asking them from a UX research perspective. It was not intentional.
Christoph's thinking about spicy things. It's all good.
you kind of hit on the how to present, but I also think maybe for another iteration is like about how to choose a method, maybe how somehow help users, or if you have a few methods, probably you have more methods in the toolkit. Maybe have to decide when to use which one, which might be tricky because I guess it's not that easy to like make a simple algorithm, right? But uh, that's another expansion of the toolkit I see in the future.
Yeah.
But perhaps it's better first to get a bit more methods and like build around them and improve what we have, and then do like a more meta guide on how to use them. I mean, when to use them, or which method is suitable for certain situations.
Yeah. And it's also, I'm just thinking about what, being in the community and having the experience of diving into these different projects and acting in the role of a UX researcher. I feel a lot like, I think time constraints is quite a thing to consider as well. um, I didn't come back in any of the feedback, but maybe it would be interesting to include like, hey, you might need a week to do this, or you might need 2 weeks to do this, because um, I think that as a researcher or someone jumping into a project, they need to be able to give that to the team if they say, hey, I'm going to be doing competitive research. Oh, so how long is that going to take? Well, I don't know. I just have this toolkit here in front of me with these Figma diagrams, and I have no idea. So maybe that might be interesting to include as well, that they might need a week or something like that, because projects like to move at a certain pace, and yeah. So, and Art, what do you think with regards to that?
I think at present we also have a need to be scrappy, and so that UX webinar you went to, we could link out to that.
Yeah,
And then towards the end, as you know, as we're closer to a open beta in a sense, we could consider, is this a need that actually exists in the community, and then start fulfilling that.
yeah, yeah. Christoph, any thoughts from you? Or are we distracting you from writing up your blog post?
I already just sent that out. There's just something else. I'm just trying to get, sorry, just saying to care for a few things before the end of the day. Couple thoughts I had earlier, which are kind of random. First of all, I would not call it Boxster. I think that sounds horrendous. I would just call it the kit, or the research kit.
UX research.
And the second one was, I really disagree with description of, and I mentioned this too as well, description of designers and researchers being a supporting roles. I think that's not a. I don't think that's how it is. I don't think that's how it should be, and I don't think we should describe ourselves as supporting roles. Who is the not supporting role? Are developers the only ones who actually create anything valuable then? So I
Oh, I
think,
see.
in a
Yeah.
team, in a company or so, like in a building, like the janitor, everyone has a role to play, and it works because everyone comes together. And maybe it's because the researchers, they're a little bit more. It's a little bit more less tactile what they put together. Like they gather and analyze information and feed it into everyone's brains to kind of affect how things are being done and what's being done. Maybe that's where it came from, but I don't know. I just have a very strong response against that framing. Well, I mean, what do you think? You have good reasons for it. That's cool too, but wanted to share that.
That's a very good insight, and there's probably a better phrase than support role. To me, the distinction, strictly for having less words to write, was there's the founder, right? And then there's people that support that. And the people that support that are the janitors, the designers, the product folks, everybody. That's how I thought about it. And there's likely, again, better terminology for that distinction.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because that's kind of a top-down hierarchy type of thing, in which in open source it's a lot more flat than that, where it's a lot of voluntary contribution, where everyone picks their own roles. So it's just, I don't know, a bit of a different beast,
Very
I guess.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really like I really had to, like, I mean, I've been now working in open source, I think we're just under a year, and it took me a while to kind of get my brain around. What I love about this, working in this environment, is that if you're self-initiated, if you're very self-motivated, you can have so much of fun with your work. You can have so much of fun. It's just incredible. Jakob, you're nodding your head because you know exactly what I mean. It's like you can have so much of fun. The world is literally your oyster with this, yeah.
Self-driven, I think you wanted to say.
Self-driven, self-motivated, yeah, self-driven. Yeah, exactly. You want to share something about that, Jakob?
No, I completely agree, and that's why I think most of designers and builders in Bitcoin are just love Bitcoin. So it's a huge. This is the hugest source of the driven and motivation. So yeah.
And you're already super self-motivated, Art. So you just tick 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 tick.
Mm.
Yeah, but this was Christoph. You want to say something?
No, it's I don't know, and I that was my response. Maybe you had different response. I just wanted to share it, and whatever comes. Yeah, that's it basically. So.
Yeah. What do you guys think are the next steps with we now have this little gold mine of feedback which we've now received about the UX research toolkit. It's really clear all of the feedback that art has, you know, the must-haves, the nice-to-have. Um, it feels like the next phase would be really taking each part, first starting off with the welcome page and taking the feedback from the welcome page and working with that, then taking the next chunk, and then it feels like there's going to be 4 chunks to work with. The first chunk would be the welcome page, the second one would be the competitive research, user journey mapping, and jobs to be done, and just take those 4 chunks and just take the feedback and directly implement it into the chunk. Does anyone else have any ideas?
So one of the conclusion was that the Notion is not preferred. So should we just move out of Notion now?
Yeah, good
But
one.
like I know there are this. I haven't tried those, but there's WordPress. There's a Ghost. It's quite popular now. I haven't tried it, so don't have to like build a website from scratch, but we can use other web builders that are there and are quite easy to do. So that's one.
Yeah, just keep in mind that you get a lot of overhead. Notion, I know it may not be the perfect final thing, but you can very quickly iterate with it right now on a lot of stuff. You just click, edit, add new page, and with WordPress Ghost and whatnot, it's always just a headache and a learning experience, which at some point it may be necessary. But Mo, like you and I, we spent an hour setting up a page in Markdown for the guide earlier this week
Yeah,
in our workshop, and just compare that to the ease of using Notion. So yeah, maybe just spec out, maybe try to come up with a plan for it, but
yeah,
maybe not make the move until the things are a little bit like Art was saying. Which term did you use? The content is juvenile. Is that the term? No, what? Yeah,
yeah,
maybe until it's like middle-aged person or something.
I love
I
that.
totally agree. I think that we stay with Notion now, since we're still in alpha/beta,
yeah,
and then as we move closer to like a full launch, then we'll consider other places to host it for sure.
yeah,
In terms of timelines, we we originally scoped this revision section for a week. So a week from today, a week from this coming Monday, we theoretically should be done the revisions,
yeah.
right? I have you as the lead for the revisions, Mo, and
Thank
what
you.
we what we can do
Of
is we
course.
could, depending on like Jakob's and Jan's timeline or availability, they could be the ones responsible for revising their respective sections, and then you and I can work on the other ones. I'm happy to be final sign off on things like I did last time too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
regarding
then
the content. Yeah,
yeah, and folks, for context, I was gonna be sharing this and talking about next steps, but I just yeah, it just keeps crashing. And then we have a month after the revisions of this phase 1 to build out our second section, which is ship to markets. Yeah, so we're moving along actually, like fully aligned with our timelines, which is kind of cool.
yeah. And listen, with regards to those timelines as well. I mean, we set. I think I set a goal. My personal goal for quarter 1 of 2023 was actually only to finish off the first half of the UX research toolkit. But I think if I indeed maybe, rethink that goal, I mean, I don't feel we need to really push. I feel like a month for the second half might really be trying to like squeeze it in. I think it sounds realistic, but if I look at how I came up with the first half and how many times I reiterated and changed my mind and did all those things, maybe something like a month and a half would feel a lot more, I don't know. I don't want to feel like I'm rushing through it. So I like to kind of take my time, let things marinate in my mind, and then come back to it 2 days later. So yeah, maybe we can like move. I think we can move the timelines to be a bit more leaning towards a month and a half as opposed to a month for the second half, just so that it feels a bit more organic. Because the first half of the toolkit, I'll be really honest with you, I actually started creating that in Figma, and then I was like, this is not going to work. I had basically had Figma and I had a whole bunch of Google documents, and then I was like, this is not usable to anyone, you know. And that was how I made the decision to move everything over to Notion. It was literally pivot, redesign everything in Notion. And now we've collected all of this really, really good research that we can now put back in, and then we can actually almost make sure that those insights that we've gotten from this research get carried over to the second half of the toolkit. Um, and also, what I really like is I really like having these calls about different tools in the kit. So, like when we move over to what is it, ship to market, then we have like a call for every single, like how we had one for jobs to be done and how we had one for competitive research. So we have individual calls for each one of those tools that needs to be built out. I really like that because we can also link to those calls as well in the toolkit. So yeah, that's me just throwing out my ideas, but it feels like we're really going in the right direction, and I'm really happy with how everything is. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yep. Really good progress. Really, it was really cool to see the survey and hear the results now. It's awesome. Oh, one small thing I thought of: embedding FigJam directly into a page. Be very careful on mobile. This may likely not work because the FigJam will probably intercept your touch your taps, and it will probably break scrolling on the page. That's how it is with Figma regular plug embeds, at least.
We need to try and see how it.
Give it a try. Just
In the worst case, we can
Yeah.
include a screenshot, I guess, of the tool in Figma.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, 'cause people just want the screenshots. Christoph, you're thinking 40 steps ahead as the genius that you are.
It's just experience. We tried it on the guide, and then a year later, we figured it out that doesn't work. Then someone else asked again, and then someone else asked again. Just
I love that the community has already solved previous problems, and we this is called institutional knowledge, more formally in bigger orgs, right? This is us leveraging our shared wisdom. This is beautiful. It's what a community of practice is about, really. Mo, to your point,
Yeah.
there has been something that's changed since you originally started to think about this toolkit. And what's changed is you didn't expect to meet me. You didn't expect to meet Jakob. You didn't expect to meet
No,
Jan.
absolutely not. You said it. You literally just said what I'm thinking. I mean, this is a dream come true to be able to work with your minds and collaborate on this. Like, I'm so super grateful that you guys are, willing to commit your time and effort. Exactly what you said. Couldn't have imagined it. It's a dream come true.
And the vice versa is true as well, because this is a really fun project and the vibes are right?
Yeah.
And so what that means in terms of working together is it's the way that this is going to be my inner therapist, okay? The way you spoke about the timelines made it seem like you're thinking about how it would work if you were working on it alone.
Right.
You're not working on it alone. You're working on it with a team. And so I've pushed out the timelines to a month and a half, but if it ends up being sooner than that, then you know that you're part of a team.
Oh, that's super cool. Oh, this is great. Oh man, we should just all give ourselves a big round of applause and clap on our back and put this on some, front of the Bitcoin design community video. Kidding.
But practically, friends, practically, we still have our little signal chat. Yeah, exactly, Christoph. That's beautiful. Signal chat will, delegate next steps and such, and
Yeah.
go from there. We're making good time.
Yeah, I think it's I'm also having a lot of fun building it out with you guys as well because I think everyone has really different perspectives and really different insights and ways of seeing things. And it'll be great. I mean, for Jakob to say, like, after a year from now, hey, jobs to be done section in the UX research toolkit, or no, sorry, Jakob, you were user journey mapping. That was my baby. And then Jan to say like, hey, that was my baby, that's, yeah, super cool. Really nice.
It's,
But
maybe, but you're all parents, so we are all parents of our babies.
we're what? We're parents.
Are you sure? I thought we're practicing open design and it belongs to everyone.
Christoph is so good at that. He's so good at that. Being the neutral person.
That's why I say we are all parents, right? It's like a commune.
We're parents. It's
Open
everyone's
design
work.
community.
Yeah. Yeah, no. But this was a really good call. So we have 4 minutes to wrap up.
In the
Really,
in the
yeah,
in the
go
4 minutes that are left, folks, always open to feedback. Is there anything you particularly enjoyed or did not about the presentation in terms of format, in terms of pacing, in terms of body language? Welcome to feedback. Feel free to share.
I loved your body language until it froze. So.
It froze in a funny angle. I hope you got that experience.
No, it was a great presentation, great results, and interesting. And I think the survey was, executed really well. So, thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
for sure. And you, Christoph?
Love it. Please do more.
Yeah. It was really good. It was really good. Yeah. It was really nice to watch, learn the process, do a survey that actually got more than 5 responses. Mind blowing. Amazing. It was really nice. Really.
Yeah, I think that takes some time to build up. I was listening to a researcher who takes on these super special projects where he like has to go to Afghanistan and do some crazy research in some random place about some random stuff. And these people, they have I don't know what they're called. They're not called fixers or something, but they have contacts all over the world. So if like he needs a jeep or a camel in some random country somewhere, and some expert on some certain thing or a local guide or something, he knows who to contact to.
Wow.
I feel like this was Studio Durance, I think is the Studio D. Yeah, really interesting. But I feel like it's a little bit similar in the way that when you do more of those surveys and you do more of the research, you really build your network in a way. You know where to find the right people. You know how to like dive into the local cultures and learn about stuff very efficiently. But that comes with doing more and more of that work.
Yeah. And I really like how we did it because we kept it simple. So we all agreed amongst the 3 UX researchers, hey, we're going to post it all on our social media channels. And then we gave each other another task and we said, okay, share it with 10 people. And then we each were just, sharing it with a few people, sending out DMs. And I think that's literally that simple is what resulted in getting that many responses because, yeah, I'm really happy with the amount of responses we got. It's incredible.
That's exactly it. Yeah, is we leveraged our community and we actually followed through on formally it's called disseminating, but sharing it out, right?
Yeah. We just leaned in on each other. Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And it just worked out. Yeah. Having a lot of fun in that signal group. So, yeah. Cool, guys. It is 1 minute to the hour, and it is a Friday. That's 6 p.m. here in the Netherlands. And in Germany, probably where Jakob is as well.
Yep.
So I'm going to wrap up this call. I'm just going to end the recording. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I'm going to stop the recording.